style, digging up water-filled frogs and that kind of...
Find an hammer hole or something.
Find an Aboriginal, make friends quickly. Wow.
Oh, they could go a fair distance still in farming country, of course. The farms go out a long way. But, they were very, very frightened. It was a very frightening time for them.
So when you say Britain surrendered, but then eventually the Allies won, the surrender of Britain, was that as a whole country, or was it that particular group of men that were captured?
It was just because Malaya and Singapore, all of that belonged to Britain. They were all colonies.
Right.
And the British presence in that part, they surrendered. Britain itself didn't. Oh,
right.
No.
So part of the army surrendered, and those men were captured, but not Britain itself, because
No.
I believe they would fight them on the beaches, and they would fight them elsewhere, and they would never surrender. Yes.
That's right. No. Britain herself didn't. It was just the Far East army was captured.
Right. Yes. And it wouldn't have been nice to be among them. You know of Corrie ten Boom?
Yes.
I was telling Caroline about her. Very, very good example.
One of the really good books to read about the fall of Singapore and all that sort of thing is there's a book called Miracle on the River Kwai.
Yes, we had to study that in school.
Oh, right.
Yes. School was very keen on Corrie ten Boom.
No, that was a good book.
Basically, at one point, it was kind of similar to Jesus when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Some woman came and told her that her sister had been killed, and they were looking.
Her sister died actually,
in hospital.
in the camp,
and she was looking in the hospital window, and she said, "Oh, those poor souls." And Corrie said something along the lines of, "Yes, I hope God will forgive them." And Corrie was referring to poor souls being the Japanese.
Yeah.
So,
No, not Japanese, German.
Corrie
Yes,
was
in
right.
Germany.
Yes.
But some years after the war, actually, many years after the war, one of the German commandants of the prison camp where they'd been
asked her forgiveness.
Asked if he could speak to her, and
Yes.
it was very, very hard for her, but she did. She shook his hand.
I think she took some time to do that, did she?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she couldn't do it straight away.
How long?
She had to think about it. Oh, I think it was the same evening, sort of. I can't remember exactly now, but she had to think about it. But she did forgive him.
Which shows it was genuine. If you just say, "Yeah, sure, mate," it's all good, then
right.
and not necessarily.
But the thing about the horror of the Japanese prison camps and everything was that they weren't all as bad as some. Some of the guards, smuggled food through to the men and all that sort of thing. Most of the men died of starvation and disease, of course. They were just skeletons.
Oh, and work. Because when you get sick, that is no excuse.
No.
You work anyway.
You worked until you dropped.
Yeah.
When some of them, I remember some of them coming back to York after the war, and what they did was when they were liberated, when Japan fell and they were liberated, they didn't bring them straight back to Australia. They took them to India to fatten up a bit, because they were in such a horrific condition.
They didn't want the Australian people to see that.
Didn't want the Australian people to see them.
Sneaky.
Well, they didn't want the mothers and wives to see them in
No.
that condition.
No.
And I just very vaguely remember seeing a couple of them, farmers' sons, that came back when I was a little girl. And they didn't look too flat even by the time they got back, I can tell you.
Even when they were fat.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, there's some interesting physiological changes that happen when you go through a period of starvation, then come out of it. Your body never stores food in the same way again. Your body remembers that, and your body is very careful with what you eat, and it maintains you in the best physical shape it can, and you remain a survivor. And if at any point after that you're put in a similar sort of situation, you'll fare a lot better than the other people around you.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yes. Yeah.
There was a book I read in school, Hatchet Winter, and it's a fictional fact-based story on a boy whose father gives him a hatchet in a belt and sends him off by plane to visit his mother in the middle of Canada. And while they're flying over in a little one-man plane, the pilot has a heart attack. They crash into a lake, and he survives, and he's got a hatchet, and he's got to do everything with a hatchet. And how he kills animals, and how he makes tools using his hatchet. So he makes bows and arrows and sticks and kills first off insects and then other animals and things. And when he comes back, he is lean, muscular, and tanned, and he remains that way for most of his life. And your body just kind of has a never go in there again kind of attitude to it. And, yeah.
Send out warning signals as soon as your food level drops a bit. Hey, oh, we know about this.
Yeah, we've been here. Yeah. And he said that he didn't understand how primal a force hunger is, that within about 12 hours of feeling hunger, you're starting to go weak. And so he would start every expedition or everything he was doing with a meal first, and then he'd do whatever, regardless of how important it was, regardless of how he had to get about
Quite
it.
right, too.
Eat first, and then, and if that means eating insects, you eat the insects, because the alternative's not fun. Yeah. So...
Have you ever read the Jean Auel series, Clan of the Cave Bear?
No. Is it fantasy or...?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like fantasy. I'm a
But-
big fantasy fan.
Well, when I say fantasy, she's very highly she's an archaeologist, and she's very highly regarded, Jean Auel. And she sets this series. There are 5 books in the series, which is a shame because the first 3, the 5th is rubbish.
Right.
But well, I think so.
Didn't know when to stop.
Didn't know when to stop. But she sets it in the last ice age, which is about 15,000 years ago. And are the mosquitoes getting you, Carol? Yeah. Do you want to go inside?
No, it's all right.
We can if you want.
Yeah, we can go inside.
About time for another cuppa, I'd say.
I think it's time for another cuppa.